The morning sun was rising over the thick jungle, and the sound of insects and birds echoed all around. The air was heavy, filled with the smell of damp earth and leaves. A small team of human explorers stood at the edge of a clearing, staring at what had been uncovered after weeks of digging. It was the top of an ancient stone temple, hidden beneath vines, soil, and centuries of silence. Jaren, the leader of the team, brushed dirt from his hands and gazed at the carved stones. The structure was massive, larger than anything he had expected to find on this planet. Tall blocks of stone were stacked with such skill that no gap could be seen between them. Strange symbols ran across the surface, twisting and curling like rivers frozen in stone. Myra, the team's linguist, stepped forward with her tablet. She studied the carvings, running her fingers gently over them. "These symbols are not like any script I know," she said softly. "But they are not random. They form patterns. Someone wanted to leave a message here." Behind her, Ren, the pilot, adjusted his pack and scanned the clearing with cautious eyes. "If someone wanted to leave a message," he said, "maybe they also wanted to keep others out. We should be careful." The team had heard rumors from the settlers living near the jungle. Old stories spoke of a temple buried under the trees, a place built by hands not human. Some believed it was a holy site. Others whispered that it hid a vault of gold deeper than imagination. For many, it was only a legend, but Jaren and his crew had come searching for truth. Days of cutting vines, clearing soil, and setting up camp had brought them to this moment. What they saw now was not a broken ruin but a structure that had resisted time. The temple seemed to wait for them. As the sun climbed higher, light poured through the gaps in the canopy and fell across the carvings. The golden hue of the light made the symbols glow faintly, as if the stone itself carried a hidden shine. Myra caught her breath. "Look at that," she whispered. "It almost feels alive." Jaren knelt at the base of the stone wall. His hands brushed against what looked like a doorway, though sealed with thick slabs. At the center was a symbol larger than the rest, shaped like a circle with lines stretching outward like rays of light. "This is not only decoration," Jaren said. "It feels like a marker. Maybe the entrance is behind this." The crew set up tools and scanners. They worked for hours, carefully removing dirt and plant roots that covered the lower parts of the wall. As they did, more patterns were revealed. Some looked like stars, others like flowing rivers, and still others like shapes of towers rising high. Ren's scanner beeped, drawing his attention. "There's an empty space behind this wall," he said, showing the display. "It's large, maybe a chamber. Whatever is inside has been untouched for a very long time." Excitement and unease spread among the crew. If the settlers' stories were true, this was the first step towards something extraordinary. But no one knew what waited below. As night approached, they built fires around the clearing and set up watch. The jungle came alive with glowing insects, distant roars, and the rustling of unseen creatures. The team gathered near the fire, speaking in low voices. Myra could not take her eyes from the carvings, even in the dim firelight. "These builders," she said, "they were not simple. The way the stones fit, the way the symbols are arranged, it speaks of knowledge far beyond what we expected to find here." Jaren nodded. "And if the vault truly exists, then maybe what lies beneath is not only gold. It could be knowledge, technology, or history from a civilization long gone." Ren kept silent, sharpening a tool. He did not share the same excitement. To him, the silence of the ruins was heavy, like a warning. He had flown across many worlds, and he had seen enough to know that not every discovery was meant to be touched. When dawn returned, the team rose early and prepared to breach the sealed doorway. They worked together, lifting stone after stone, until the central slab began to shift. With a loud echo, the carved circle split, revealing a narrow passage that sloped downward into darkness. A rush of cold air came from within, carrying a faint metallic scent. The explorers stood in silence, staring into the passage. For the first time, they felt the weight of what they had found. "This is it," Jaren said at last, his voice firm. "The path into the heart of the temple. Whatever the ancients left here, we are the first to walk where they once walked." Myra gripped her tablet tighter, Ren held his scanner close, and the others readied their lights. Together, they stepped toward the opening, their footsteps echoing against stone that had not felt life for countless ages. The temple had been uncovered, but its true secrets lay hidden below, waiting for those brave enough to seek them. Humanity had taken the first step, and the jungle seemed to fall silent, as though even the world itself was holding its breath. The narrow passage sloped down into the earth, and the walls closed around the explorers like a stone throat. Their lights cut through the darkness, revealing smooth surfaces covered in more carvings. The air was cool and damp, carrying the faint smell of metal and dust. Each step echoed, as though the temple itself was listening to their movements. Jaren led the group with steady steps, his hand brushing the walls. The carvings here were sharper, less worn by time, as if the builders had sealed this place to protect it from age. He paused at one section where the carvings showed figures standing beneath a shining circle. The figures were tall and slim, their hands raised toward the light above them. Myra studied the image closely. "This is not random," she said. "It tells a story. These beings worshipped or protected something. Look at the circle above them. It is the same symbol we saw at the doorway." Ren glanced at the image, then turned his scanner back to the passage ahead. "Stories are fine," he muttered, "but I would like to know if anything dangerous waits for us." The team moved deeper, and the passage widened into a chamber. The ceiling stretched high above, and the walls curved into an almost perfect circle. At the center of the floor was a raised platform. Upon it lay a block of stone with golden veins running through it, glowing faintly in the light. The crew gathered around the platform, their voices hushed. Gold was rare on Earth, and here it appeared not only as metal but as living veins within the stone. The glow seemed natural, as though the gold itself carried energy. Myra bent close and traced one of the glowing veins with her eyes. "This is not just decoration," she said. "It feels like a conduit. Maybe the gold is carrying some kind of power." Jaren tapped the stone lightly, listening to the sound. "It is hollow," he said. "Something lies inside." The chamber's silence pressed against them as they worked to study the block. Ren kept scanning the walls, noticing faint marks that formed patterns. "These are warnings," he said finally. "Look here. The figures are guarding the circle, but in the next set, they are falling. It is a warning, not a celebration." His words unsettled the crew. The settlers' legends had always spoken of treasure, but legends often twisted truth. Could it be that the vault beneath the ruins was not a gift but a trap? Still, Jaren's determination did not falter. He had chased discoveries across many worlds, and he believed this was the greatest of them all. If the builders left warnings, then they also left answers, he said. "We must keep going." They searched the chamber until Myra discovered a narrow stairway hidden behind a curtain of stone. It spiraled downward, and at its base, another door of carved stone waited. This one was larger and sealed tighter, with golden lines running through its surface like veins of light. The crew set up camp in the circular chamber before attempting to open the new door. As night settled outside the temple, they lit lanterns and gathered together. The flickering glow made the carvings dance across the walls. Over their simple meal, Myra spoke again. "I think the settlers' stories are fragments of truth. The gold vault might not be gold as we know it. It could be something far greater. The ancients used gold not for wealth but for its endurance, its ability to last through ages. They wanted someone to find this, but only if they were careful." Ren frowned. "Or maybe they wanted it buried forever." The firelight reflected in Jaren's eyes. "If they wanted it hidden forever, they would not have left a path. They built this place to be found. We are here because they wanted someone to come after them." The jungle sounds outside drifted faintly through cracks in the stone, but inside the temple there was only stillness. The crew sat in silence for a while, each lost in thought. The gold veins glowed softly, as if the temple itself was alive, waiting for a choice to be made. Later, when most of the crew slept, Jaren remained awake, staring at the golden door below. His thoughts were filled with both hope and fear. If the vault held knowledge, it could change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. If it held something dangerous, they might unleash a force beyond their control. In the early hours, the team rose and prepared to face the sealed door. Tools were laid out, scanners checked, and lights adjusted. Jaren placed his hand on the golden surface and felt a faint vibration, like a heartbeat within the stone. "This is not only a door," he said. "It is a lock. And every lock has a key." Myra looked at the carvings on the walls, then back at the glowing veins. "The key might not be force. It might be understanding. We need to see what the ancients wanted us to learn before we open this." Ren gave a sharp nod. "If we open it wrong, we might not survive to regret it." The team stood before the golden door, their lights shining against its glowing lines. Behind it, the vault waited, silent and unseen. The settlers' whispers of gold had brought them here, but what lay beyond this barrier was no longer just legend. It was real, and it was close. The jungle above remained unaware, but beneath its roots, the temple stirred. Humanity had reached a threshold, and what they chose next would decide whether the vault became a gift of hope or a curse of memory. The golden door loomed before the explorers, glowing faintly as though it held the light of a buried sun. Jaren placed both hands against it once more, feeling the steady pulse within the stone. The sensation was not imagined. It was real, like the rhythm of a hidden heart waiting to be awakened. Myra studied the veins of gold that ran across the surface. She traced the lines with her eyes, noting how they curved and branched like rivers. "These lines are not random," she said. "They connect to the carvings in the chamber above. It is a pattern, a design. The ancients wanted us to see it." Ren lifted his scanner again, watching the readings flicker across the display. "The space behind this door is vast," he said. "Larger than the chamber we camped in. Whatever lies inside has been sealed for thousands of years, maybe longer." The crew gathered, tools ready, but Jaren raised his hand to stop them. "No force," he said firmly. "If Myra is right, this is not a door to be broken. It must be opened the way the builders intended." Together they examined the carvings along the stairway walls. Myra translated the symbols into shapes and lines on her tablet. She noticed that many of the designs matched the golden veins on the door. Slowly, she pieced them together like fragments of a puzzle. At last she stepped back and pointed toward the center of the door. "Here," she said. "The circle with the rays. It is the heart of the design. If we place pressure at the right points, it may unlock. Jaren nodded. He and Ren pressed their hands against two smaller circles carved near the edges of the door, while Myra placed her hand at the center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the golden veins brightened, glowing with sudden strength. The stone vibrated under their touch, and a deep hum filled the chamber. With a slow grinding sound, the door split open. A rush of cold air swept past them, carrying the metallic scent of age. The light from their lamps stretched into the opening, revealing a staircase that descended into perfect blackness. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Ren tightened the strap of his pack. "Once we go down, there may be no turning back," he warned. Jaren's eyes shone with determination. "We came here for the truth. We will see this through." They began their descent. The stairs were wide, made from polished stone that reflected faint traces of gold. As they moved deeper, the air grew colder, and the silence pressed heavier. Their lights revealed walls covered in carvings more detailed than any they had seen before. These carvings told stories. The figures of the builders were shown creating towers that reached the skies, forging machines powered by golden veins, and gazing at stars with great instruments. The deeper the explorers went, the more the story changed. The builders were shown standing before a great circle of light, their faces raised in hope. But then the carvings darkened. The light grew too bright, and the builders were shown falling, their towers breaking, their machines failing. Myra touched one of the carvings gently. "They reached for something too powerful," she whispered. "They built wonders, but in the end, it destroyed them." Ren shook his head. "And now we are walking toward the same fate." The stairs ended in a grand hall. Their lamps lit rows of tall pillars, each carved with the same golden veins. At the far end stood a massive structure, half altar and half machine. Its surface gleamed with pure gold, and its shape curved upward like the petals of a flower frozen in bloom. The crew approached with slow steps, their breath clouding in the cold air. The machine was silent, yet it seemed to watch them. At its center rested a sphere of gold, larger than a human head, glowing with a steady light. Myra stared in awe. "This is it. This is the vault." Ren circled the machine cautiously, scanning its surface. "It is not treasure," he said. "It is a device. And it still works." Jaren reached the base of the structure and placed a hand on the golden surface. The hum returned, stronger now, resonating through the floor and walls. The light within the sphere pulsed faster, like a heartbeat responding to his touch. The explorers stepped back as the hall came alive. Golden lines raced across the pillars, illuminating the entire chamber. The carvings on the walls glowed, showing the builder's story in living light. The hall was no longer silent. It was singing with power. Myra held her breath, her voice trembling. The builders left this for someone to find. They wanted their story remembered. But Ren's expression grew darker. Or they wanted to warn us. If this machine destroyed them, why should it spare us? Jaren's gaze did not waver from the sphere. Because we are not them. We can choose differently. This is not only a vault of gold. It is a vault of their legacy. Humanity was meant to find it. The chamber pulsed with light, and the explorers felt as though they stood on the edge of history. They had uncovered the truth behind the settlers' legends. The gold beneath the temple was not wealth but a message across time. What they chose to do next would decide whether that message became a gift of wisdom or a warning repeated. The hall grew brighter, and the heartbeat of the machine echoed in their chests. The descent was over. The vault had been opened. And now the true journey was about to begin. The chamber glowed like sunrise beneath the earth. Golden veins stretched across the pillars and walls, each pulse of light flowing toward the great machine at the center. The explorers stood in silence, their lamps now dim against the brilliance of the vault. The golden sphere shone with steady rhythm, a silent heart that had waited through countless years. Jaren stepped closer, his hand brushing against the base of the machine. The surface was smooth and warm, as though alive. He felt no fear, only awe. "This is the core," he said softly. "It holds everything the builders left behind." Myra's eyes were wide as she studied the glowing carvings. The stories now shone more clearly than before. She saw the rise of the builders, their towers glittering under distant suns. She saw their machines drawing energy from golden veins that ran through their world. She saw their hands raised in triumph as they reached the stars. Then she saw the fall. The light in the carvings grew brighter, too bright, until it consumed the figures. Their towers collapsed, their machines cracked, and the golden veins burned with fire. Finally, the figures carved in stone vanished, leaving only empty landscapes. Myra whispered, "They wanted us to remember. They wanted us to see how it ended." Ren kept his scanner fixed on the machine. The readings showed energy far beyond human technology. He felt unease settle deep in his chest. This is not just a memory. It is still active. If it failed once, it can fail again. Jaren turned, his voice calm but firm. If it failed once, then perhaps it holds the answer to why. If we understand, we may learn from them. That is why we came. The crew began their work. Myra copied every carving she could find, tracing the glowing symbols into her tablet. Ren circled the machine, measuring its power and mapping its structure. Jaren kept his focus on the sphere, searching for a way to unlock its purpose without breaking it. Hours passed in quiet study. The chamber seemed timeless, as though the outside world no longer mattered. The air was cool, the light steady, and the hum of the machine never ceased. At last Myra spoke again. "These carvings are more than warnings. They are instructions. Look here." She pointed to a sequence of symbols glowing along one wall. "This shows the builders standing before the sphere, placing their hands just as we did at the door. But after, there is a flow of light into their minds. They were not only storing energy here. They were storing knowledge." Jaren's eyes lit with understanding. "A vault not of gold but of memory." Ren frowned. "Or a trap that fills the mind with something we cannot survive." The thought hung in the air, heavy with possibility. Jaren placed his hand on the sphere. The golden light brightened, and the hum deepened. The machine responded, as if recognizing his presence. For a moment, images flickered in his mind, shapes of stars, flashes of towers, echoes of voices long gone. He gasped and stepped back, his breath sharp. "What did you see?" Myra asked quickly. Jaren steadied himself. "A glimpse. A piece of their world. It was not dangerous, not yet. It was like touching memory." Myra's voice trembled with both fear and wonder. "Then it is true. The builders left their legacy inside this sphere. If we can unlock it fully, we can see their history, their knowledge, everything they wanted to pass on." Ren shook his head, unease still clouding his thoughts. "Knowledge can be as dangerous as power. If this is what destroyed them, why should we believe we can control it?" Jaren looked into the glowing sphere, his reflection framed in gold. "Because we must try. If we turn away, their story ends here. If we continue, we may save not only their memory but also ourselves. The chamber seemed to breathe with them, the golden light pulsing in time with their hearts. The explorers knew they stood on the edge of something greater than treasure. The vault beneath the temple was not a tomb of wealth but a gift of knowledge carved in light and stone. They set up their equipment around the sphere, preparing for a deeper connection. Myra read the instructions on the walls again and again, searching for clarity. Ren adjusted his scanner, his hands tense, ready to pull back at the first sign of danger. Jaren stood at the center, steady as a guide. As their work continued, faint vibrations stirred through the floor. Dust fell from the high ceiling, and the golden light grew sharper. It was as if the vault itself was waking after a long slumber. The explorers exchanged glances. Their discovery had crossed a threshold. They were no longer only uncovering history. They were part of it. Jaren spoke quietly, but his words carried through the chamber. We have opened the vault. Now we must decide if we are ready to carry its legacy. The golden sphere glowed brighter, waiting for their choice. The golden sphere at the center of the vault glowed with a steady light. Its pulse filled the chamber, quiet yet powerful, like a silent voice asking to be heard. The explorers stood around it, their equipment set, their minds tense with both fear and excitement. Myra read the carvings on the wall again. Her voice was low but clear. The builders touched the sphere, and it gave them visions. They placed their memories inside it. It is not only a machine. It is a library written in light. Jaren nodded, his eyes fixed on the sphere. Then we must open it fully. We must see what they left. Ren hesitated. He kept scanning the machine, watching the readings climb higher than anything he had ever seen. We must also remember why their story ended. If we open this wrong, the same fate could follow us. The chamber was silent except for the faint hum of the vault. Dust drifted slowly from the high ceiling as though time itself was holding its breath. Jaren placed both hands on the golden surface. The light grew brighter, flooding the hall with a warm glow. At first there was only silence, but then images began to form inside Jaren's mind. He gasped as stars stretched before him, countless and bright. He saw towers of shining stone rising on distant worlds. He saw the builders themselves, tall figures with thoughtful eyes, shaping cities with their golden machines. Myra watched his face carefully. "What do you see?" she asked. Jaren's voice was unsteady. "I see their world. I see what they built. It was beautiful, beyond anything we know." The sphere pulsed again, and the vision deepened. Jaren staggered but did not pull away. He saw the builders reaching for the circle of light, drawing power from it. Their cities glowed brighter, their towers reached higher, and their machines worked without end. But the light grew unstable. Golden rivers beneath the ground burst into fire, machines cracked, and the sky itself split. The figures fell, their voices fading into silence. Jaren pulled back, his breath heavy. The glow of the sphere dimmed slightly, as though resting. Myra stepped forward quickly. "What did you learn?" Jaren steadied himself. "They built wonders, but they took too much from the light. Their hunger destroyed them. They sealed this vault so others would see, so others would not make the same mistake." Ren folded his arms. "A warning, then. That is all this is. We should seal it again and leave." But Myra shook her head. "No. It is more than a warning. The carvings show them placing their memories here. They did not only want us to see their fall. They wanted us to continue what they began, but wisely." The debate hung heavy in the chamber. The golden light seemed to pulse stronger, as though the vault itself was waiting for their choice. Myra raised her tablet, showing another set of glowing carvings. Here, look. After the fall, there is a new image. A circle with rays again, but beside it stands a figure different from the others. Not tall like the builders. Shorter, with broader shoulders. It is not them. It is someone else. It is us. Jaren leaned closer, his eyes widening. The figure in the carving indeed looked more like a human than the ancient builders. The symbol beside it was clear. The builders had left this vault for another race to find. Ren's voice was uneasy. So they knew they would not last. They left their story behind, hoping someone else would rise. And now it is us. The crew stood in silence, the weight of the discovery pressing upon them. This was not only about treasure or lost history. It was about legacy. Jaren stepped once more to the sphere. If this is meant for humanity, then we must take it. Not the power, not the endless hunger that destroyed them, but the wisdom. We must carry their message forward. He placed his hand on the sphere again. This time he did not resist the flow of light. Images filled his mind once more, but now they were calmer. He saw maps of stars marked with symbols, knowledge of machines, and records of voices speaking in the ancient tongue. It was as if the builders themselves whispered into his thoughts, sharing what they had learned, warning where they had failed. Myra reached out and touched the sphere as well. Her eyes widened as visions passed into her mind. She saw libraries of golden light, words unfolding like rivers of memory. Her lips trembled. They wanted to be remembered. They wanted their story to live on. Ren remained back, uneasy, but even he could not turn away from the glow. His scanner showed no danger, only endless energy flowing through patterns too complex for human machines. At last Jaren stepped back, his face pale but his eyes filled with quiet fire. It is clear now. The vault is a gift. Not to give us power, but to remind us that wisdom must guide us. The builders gave their story to us, hoping we would be better. The sphere dimmed slightly, its heartbeat slowing. It had given them what it could for now. The chamber grew still again, yet the explorers knew nothing would ever be the same. They had unlocked the message of the ancients. Humanity now carried not only its own history but also the memory of a lost civilization that had reached too far. What they chose to do with this gift would decide if their future was brighter or if their fate would mirror the silence of the builders. The golden chamber was silent except for the steady pulse of the sphere. The explorers had seen the visions, felt the memories of the builders, and understood the warning. Yet the question remained, what should they do with the knowledge now in their hands? Jaren stood before the sphere, his palms still warm from contact. We have a choice, he said quietly. We can take what the builders left, use it to advance humanity, or we can leave it here, as a warning for those who come after. Myra shook her head. Leaving it is not an option. We are the ones who found it. If we leave, it may never be used. Their knowledge was meant to guide a new race, not to vanish again. Ren folded his arms, tension in his shoulders. And what if we make the same mistakes they did? We have no idea how far this power goes. It could destroy worlds if used without care. Jaren looked at him steadily. Then we must be careful. That is why we are here. Not just to take, but to understand. The sphere pulsed brighter as if sensing their debate. Golden light flowed through the veins in the walls and pillars, forming patterns that shifted and moved. The explorers watched in awe as the machine seemed alive, as if waiting for their decision. Myra stepped closer to Jaren. The carvings show that the builders tested those who found the vault. They gave choices, but they also gave signs. They hoped the next race would not only see their story but also prove it could use it wisely. Ren's scanner beeped sharply. The readings had shifted. Energy surged through the chamber, gentle at first, then more insistent. "The vault is reacting," he said. "It wants us to decide." Jaren took a deep breath. "Then we must show we are ready. Not to take blindly, but to learn and respect what is here." The explorers moved around the sphere, placing their hands on different points marked with golden veins. Myra traced the carvings with her fingertips while Ren monitored the energy flow. Jaren focused on the central circle, the heart of the machine. Slowly, the sphere began to respond. A soft hum filled the chamber, growing in volume. Light shot along the veins, connecting the pillars, the walls, and the floor. The symbols in the carvings shifted into new shapes, forming patterns the crew had never seen. Myra felt the knowledge pulse through her mind. She saw star charts, maps of worlds, and designs of machines powered by golden veins. It was not only science but also art and philosophy. She realized the builders had not only recorded their inventions but also their ideas, their morals, their warnings. Ren frowned as the hum intensified. "It is showing us more than we can handle. We have to be careful. If we rush, we could lose ourselves." Jaren nodded. "That is why we must work together. We cannot take this for ourselves. We must carry it as a responsibility." The golden light pulsed stronger, illuminating the chamber fully. The explorers could see details of the vault they had never noticed before. Small panels of gold lined the floor around the sphere. They were covered with symbols and diagrams, some glowing, some dim. Myra crouched to study them. "These are instructions. They show how the energy works, how it was used by the builders. If we follow them carefully, we can activate more of the vault safely." Ren adjusted his scanner to match her readings. "It is like a guide. The builders knew we would need it to avoid the mistakes they made." Jaren placed both hands on the sphere again. He felt the pulse deepen, a slow, rhythmic beat, as though the machine was testing their resolve. He closed his eyes and thought of humanity. "We are not here for power. We are here for wisdom. For the chance to rise without repeating history." The chamber seemed to respond. The golden veins glowed brighter, spreading across the walls and floor. The hum became a steady song, low and comforting. The sphere's light was no longer harsh. It was gentle, welcoming. Myra smiled faintly. "It is accepting us. We have passed the first test. The builders are showing us that we can carry their legacy if we choose the right path." Ren exhaled slowly, tension leaving his shoulders. "Then we do it together. Not for ourselves, but for everyone who comes after." Jaren nodded. "Yes. The vault is not ours to own. It is ours to learn from and protect. We will carry their story forward, and humanity will remember that wisdom is stronger than greed." The golden chamber pulsed one last time, then settled into calm. The sphere's light dimmed slightly but remained bright enough to illuminate the carvings. The vault had accepted their choice. It had tested them and found them worthy of its knowledge. The explorers stepped back and looked at one another. They had faced a test, not of strength, but of understanding. They had proven that humanity could rise to meet the challenge, not for power, but for wisdom. The vault beneath the temple was no longer just a relic of the past. It was a beacon for the future, waiting to guide those who were willing to learn from the builder's story. Humanity had chosen the right path, and for the first time, the explorers felt that they were part of something far greater than themselves. They had inherited a legacy, not of gold, but of knowledge, hope, and responsibility. The golden chamber had grown calm after the pulse of the sphere. The explorers stood together, their hearts still racing from the experience. They had seen the builder's story, understood their warnings, and carried their knowledge. Yet the question remained, what would they do with it now? Jaren stepped forward, his eyes tracing the golden veins in the walls. We have the knowledge. We understand the power. But it is only useful if we use it wisely. Myra nodded, holding her tablet close. The builders left instructions, not commands. They trusted the next race to make the right choice. That is us. We have to carry their legacy, not just for ourselves but for humanity. Ren looked at the glowing sphere. He felt the energy coursing through the chamber, steady and alive. It is incredible, he said quietly. The technology, the knowledge, it is beyond anything we imagined. If used correctly, it could change the world. But if misused, it could destroy it. Jaren smiled faintly. Then we must teach others. We must prepare humanity to use this knowledge responsibly. That is our duty now. The explorers spent the next hours documenting everything. They recorded the carvings, mapped the golden veins, and carefully copied the instructions of the builders. The sphere responded to their work, pulsing gently as though approving their actions. Myra studied one of the glowing panels near the base of the sphere. The builders created this vault not only to store their knowledge but also to guide those who find it. They hoped the next race would learn to reach the stars without repeating their mistakes. Ren placed his scanner near the floor, checking energy flows. It is remarkable. The vault adapts. It will give more knowledge as long as it senses care and caution. It is like a teacher waiting for students to be ready. Jaren looked around the chamber at his team. We are ready. Humanity is ready. We carry the trust of the builders. It is up to us to continue their story. The chamber grew warmer as the light from the sphere spread through the hall. Shadows danced across the golden walls, showing the carvings as if alive. The explorers could see new shapes forming in the veins, connecting the pillars to the floor, the walls, and the ceiling. The vault was alive with memory, yet it was patient. It would reveal its knowledge gradually, but only to those who approached it with respect. Myra traced one of the glowing veins with her fingers. This knowledge is not just for technology. It is for understanding the universe, the stars, and life itself. The builders wanted us to rise, not with force, but with wisdom. Ren nodded. Then we have a responsibility. We cannot keep this for ourselves. We have to share it, but carefully. Humanity is at a turning point. This could change everything. Jaren stepped closer to the sphere, feeling its warmth. We are the first to inherit this legacy. Our actions will shape the future. We must use what we learned not for power, but for progress, for exploration, and for knowledge. The explorers prepared to leave the chamber. They carefully closed the stairway behind them, leaving the golden vault protected, yet accessible for those who were worthy. As they ascended to the surface, the jungle welcomed them with the same quiet beauty they had seen at the start of their journey. Birds sang, and sunlight filtered through the canopy, painting the leaves with golden light. Outside, humanity waited. The explorers carried the memory of the builders, the knowledge of the vault, and the hope of a new future. They had seen the dangers of ambition, the rewards of understanding, and the importance of wisdom. Jaren looked at the horizon. This is only the beginning. The vault has shown us what is possible. Now it is our job to make it real. Myra smiled, holding the records of the vault close. We have learned much, and we have much to teach. Humanity has a chance to rise beyond what we thought possible. Ren adjusted his pack, finally relaxed. We have the tools. We have the story. Now we have to use it well. The team returned to their ship, carrying the first pieces of a new chapter in human history. The golden vault beneath the temple had given them knowledge, not power. It had tested their hearts, their judgment, and their wisdom. They had passed. As the ship lifted off the jungle world, the temple below seemed to glow faintly, a silent witness to the rise of a new generation. The builders' message had been delivered, their legacy preserved, and humanity had proven worthy. Far across the galaxy, stars shone brighter. The explorers knew that this knowledge would guide humanity not only to new worlds but also to a future where wisdom would outweigh greed, and understanding would surpass ambition. The vault had opened. Humanity had answered. And a new dawn had begun.